Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is okay and always healthy, yeah. And how about your mid exam? I hope it is went as well, yeah. And you have a good mark, everyone. Okay, so for today's topic, yeah, I want to give you some explanation or probably some of the case study of spatial planning in disaster management. As you know, disaster management is one part of our development, important in our development practice, yeah, because disaster will be always uh, surrounding us, especially in Indonesia, which one of the most complete country related to the disaster type, yeah, like volcanic disaster, earthquake, tornado, or not tornado. I think it's kind of what you call it in English, yeah, storm, yeah, storm, uh, tsunamis, and so on. So that's why spatial planning will play a important role to address the disaster management practice in Indonesia. So let's start with the first explanation, yeah. I want to show you several pictures that give some understanding, yeah, related to the how important spatial planning. For example, like this. What do you think about this? Yeah. And you can always make a comment in the Google class, yeah, related to the material, yeah. So what do you think about this? This is one of the volcano in Italy, and in Italy, Vesuvius volcano, yeah. And as you can see, the volcano is standing in the middle of a very crowded cities in Italy, near Naples, yeah, near Naples, yeah. And you can see, wow, these are really dense cities, yeah. And you must imagine that this volcano also gives some threat to the surrounding area. Of course, this is an active volcano. Now, in this case, spatial planning will plays a really important role. Like you see, sorry, you see, um, surrounding this volcano, you see that there are layers that I think it's not be used as a city. You know this part, yeah, surrounding this is still green. I think this is the location that the government prohibit, yeah, to build any houses or settlements, permanent settlements around here. You can see the cities or built up areas start from here. Yeah, I think the government already make the regulation for this. Yeah, same with in Yogyakarta we have Merapi with the KRB, ya, kawasan rawan bencana Merapi, which I think spread from 5 kilos or 10 kilos from the peak of volcano. Yeah, and also as you can see, the roads is like make in a circle. Yeah, no, there are no roads that go straight like this, yeah, because it will be dangerous also. So the road will be built as a circle. Jalannya dibuat seperti lingkaran seperti ini agar mungkin pertimbangan dari pemerintahan di sana untuk mempermudah evakuasi sehingga kita bisa menjauhi gunung sejauh mungkin, secepat mungkin. The other case is, yeah, and how about this? You can see that, and I think in Indonesia we have many news about landslide. Yeah, as you can see, many of our settlement also, yeah, it was built near a really steep slope, lereng yang terjal, and this can be happen, well, unpredictable. I mean, some of the disaster maybe we can kind of make a prediction, like for example flood. Sorry, flood in the river, not flash flood, not not flash flood, but flood from the river. We can kind of predict it using the discharge pattern in drainage in drainage material. If you have any lecture related to the drainage, they will give you what you call it, like the calculation, the calculation of Q10, Q20, Q25, Q15, like in Indonesian language ya, in bahasa Indonesia, kala ulang dari debit atau hujan. Jadi pada kala ulang tertentu, debit maksimum yang dapat dicapai sekian. Dan itu harus diwadahi atau diakomodir oleh channel atau sungai yang bersangkutan. Nah, itu kita bisa prediksi. We can predict that. But what about the landslide? Usually, we still have difficulties to predict the landslide because many factors, and also, we don't have any measurement that we can measure the stability, of course, but when will the landslide happen, we cannot predict it precisely. But if we have any potential location, we can avoid it, of course, Like for this example, I think the houses and the building, wow, it's really, like in bahasa, nempel, stick with the slope. So in the event of landslide, some part of the buildings will collapse, and will make casualties, korban jiwa atau korban barang. And now another example is like flood in the major cities. Many major cities in the world encounter flood, and maybe we can predict the rainfall and predict the discharge, but the other factors like spatial planning played important role, especially to maintain a green open space. That's really important. Green open space will give the soil chance to make the rainfall water or runoff water, what you call it, like go through the soil, infiltration. That's the word I looking. The green open space will make the rainfall or runoff water like infiltrate into the soil, meresap ke dalam tanah. So you have to make sure that the spatial planning in one city, the drainage system, the build-up area, the green open space is suitable, or the forest, or the city forest, is suitable to accept the water, the rainfall water, or the river water, so that we don't have any condition like for example like this, and in every major city, many major cities in the world probably encounter this, we have in the disaster management, we have this formula, formula or rumus in Indonesia, hazard times vulnerability divided by capacity equal risk. So risk is the product of hazard itself, bahaya, times multiple by vulnerability or kerentanan, and also the vulnerability will be divided with the capacity. So if in some place, the hazard is a potential threat to humans and the welfare, vulnerability is exposure and susceptibility to loss of life or dignity. So hazard is the occurrence, kejadiannya, bahayanya, seperti bahaya gunung api, bahaya banjir, dan sebagainya. Vulnerability adalah kerentanannya, masyarakat yang ada di dalamnya. Misalnya, banyak orang yang berusia lanjut atau anak-anak, tentu lebih rentan dibandingkan dengan usia yang muda atau produktif. Dari kecepatan berlari, kecepatan menghindar, dan sebagainya. Capacity means the potential resource that available. For example, in one area, they have many location or shelter, and they have many food resource, then those location will have high capacity. So if the vulnerability is low, tidak terlalu rentan, and capacity is high, tinggi ya kapasitasnya, then this location can encounter the hazard, dapat menandingi bahasa ininya ya, kiasannya menandingi bahaya yang mungkin muncul. Nah, ya, yeah, this is the formula. So the risk is probability of disaster occurring. What is disaster actually? Disaster is a realization of a risk. So if a hazard does not make any damage or exposure to this vulnerable, then it is not a disaster. If a hazard is make damage or loss, then it will become disaster. So you don't be confused ya, this term ya. Hazard mean the occurrence. We have a volcanic hazard in one remote area, and no one notice, no one damage anything or anyone. It is only a hazard. But if that volcano make a tsunami, and the tsunami, for example in Krakatau ya, like tsunami, and the tsunami make damage in the shore or beach, then it will become a disaster. Ya, jadi kalau bahaya itu ya kejadian kapan saja bisa terjadi, gempa bisa terjadi di mana saja, tapi tidak menyebabkan kerusakan atau kerugian, itu akan cukup menjadi hazard atau bahaya saja. Tapi manakala terjadi bahaya yang mengenai suatu lokasi, menjadi korban, nah muncullah disaster. Seperti itu. Okay, risk assessment. So this is the disaster cycle. Sorry, bit short throat ya. So in disaster cycle, nah we have what we call like disaster cycle. So this like cycle. So from the occurrence of hazard into prediction, response, recovery, hazard analysis, and so on ya. Mitigation and prevention, prevention planning, prediction and warning. After that become hazard, we have to respond, we have to recover, and we have to analyze also analyze later, and then vulnerability analysis also, mitigation, and this is like a cycle. Yeah. So after disaster occur, we does not stop at response only, just a quick response, and after that we stop. No, we have to continue with the recovery. After the recovery, everything is back to normal. Don't stop, but use our information about the disaster to make hazard analysis or disaster analysis. Also vulnerability analysis for the next upcoming hazard. After that, we prepare the mitigation. Mitigation means to mitigate, to lower the impact of hazard. That is the mean of mitigation. Not to prevent hazard, but to lower the damage of hazard. And then, this is the planning come to part. Preparedness planning. Using our information, we plan everything. We plan our city, we plan our community, we plan our buildings, and so on, so that in the event of disaster, we all already prepare. So, to summarize ya, role of spatial planning is in the disaster ya. is to aims at an efficient and balanced development. Yeah. Spatial planning is, I think you have already understand, yeah, including many sectors of transport, housing, water, and many sectors. Thus, the core element of spatial planning is to prepare and make decisions about future land use, including the natural disaster occurring in the future. We have to prepare and make decisions. Yeah, that is the role of spatial planning. Spatial planning is responsible for the development of a particular spatial area, where the sum of hazard and vulnerabilities defines the overall spatial risk, and not for a particular object or threat. Ya, sebab rahasia sectoral engineering science. Therefore, spatial planning must adopt a multi-hazard approach in order to appropriately deal with risk and hazard in a spatial context. In more simple terms, yeah, spatial planning is really really responsible to make any plan to encounter a risk and hazard that will come in the future. Yeah. Sometimes we have to consider the multi-hazard because, yeah, you know, hazard can come with the several ways. Bahaya atau kejadian itu bisa muncul bersamaan atau beberapa macam. Gempa diikuti dengan longsor, banjir diikuti dengan longsor, gunung api dengan tsunami dan sebagainya. So we have to prepare for the multi-hazard. So where is the spatial plan located in this cycle or in this system? Nah, spatial planning, as you know, related to the building, population, and so on, we have to make first, yeah, in the risk assessment, we have to understand the hazard first. Yeah, we make the hazard map, and the second, we have to map the vulnerability, the economic capacity, population, building structure, the type of hazard also, and then we have the integrated risk map. Nah, this integrated risk map have to be combined with the spatial plan analysis to become a disaster resilient spatial plan. Not only spatial plan, but also disaster resilient spatial plan. Perencanaan tata ruang yang tahan bencana. Sekarang sudah banyak ya, desa tanggap bencana, desa tangguh bencana, smart city, ya, kota tanggap atau tangguh bencana dan sebagainya. Nah, saat ini menjadi tren yang cukup diperhitungkan. Dan dalam penyusunan tata ruang pun ada beberapa poin. Mungkin beberapa kali Anda sudah membaca di tugas yang sebelumnya ya, bahwa di beberapa daerah, atau saya yakin semuanya, kan ini aturan nasional, itu sudah memperhitungkan yang namanya mitigasi bencana. Jadi dalam peta tata ruang nanti akan muncul di mana lokasi yang berpotensi bencana, berapa populasinya, di mana jalur evakuasi, dan itu pasti akan muncul. Jika Anda lihat dari beberapa peraturan, itu menjadi syarat wajib suatu dokumen tata ruang, yaitu di mana terjadi bencana, potensi bencana, di mana titik kumpul hingga ke jalur evakuasi, itu harus disiapkan. Kalaupun skupnya lebih ke skup yang lebih sempit ya, jadi mungkin lebih ke perkotaan, kawasan, dan sebagainya, itu akan lebih detail lagi peta-petanya. So, for the role of spatial planning in the disaster cycle, spatial planning plays the main burden in the area of mitigation, which aims at a reduction of damage to people, property, and resource before a disaster strikes. Please take a note of this statement ya. The goal of hazard mitigation is to reduce vulnerability and exposure to disaster. Hazard mitigation refers to action that have a long-term impact, Spatial planning as non-structural mitigation activities, but also structural mitigation such as reinforcement of protection infrastructure or building. Jadi dalam spatial planning ini dia bisa berperan sebagai mitigasi non-struktural karena dia sebagai pengaturnya, di mana harus kawasannya rawan, di mana harus membangun perumahan, kebijakannya bagaimana. Contoh di pesisir harus jarak berapa, sempatan pantai dan sebagainya. Tapi dalam spatial planning dia juga bisa merencanakan di mana kita bisa bangun, misalnya ada lereng yang sangat terjal, di mana harus membangun bronjong misalnya, atau geomembran untuk menahan longsor. Di pesisir di mana harus membuat semacam penahan gelombang dan sebagainya. Yeah, so that's the role of spatial planning. Nah, like this ya, planning to minimize risk. Using land use planning, building codes, early warning system. While the disaster happens, we already understand our risk factor. Yeah. And also, so that's why spatial planning need to be combined with the disaster information. The goal is this risk assessment, menilai risiko. Jadi ini harus diperhatikan dalam penataan ruang. Kalau sebelum UTS kita sudah pernah belajar tentang kaitan tata ruang dengan SDGs, kesejahteraan dan sebagainya. Ini juga harus diperhatikan juga, yaitu bencana. Walaupun semua sudah berjalan dengan baik secara sistem, secara resource dan sebagainya, tapi apabila terjadi bencana dan tidak siap secara spatial plan, termasuk tadi ya jalur evakuasi, building permits itu apa namanya? Aturan bangunan ya, misalnya kayak di Bantul itu, kita harus punya standar bangunan tahan gempa. Nah, ini kan yang harus diperkuat. Di mana yang wajib tahan gempa? Atau seperti KRB ya, di Merapi ya, mana yang harus kosong, mana yang tidak boleh dibangun, mana yang dapat digunakan terbatas dan sebagainya. Itu yang harus kita perhatikan ya. Oke. Yeah, same with regional planning, also and land use planning, because hazard is related to the regional condition and land use condition. Sometimes hazard comes from conversion of land use. For example, in the hills area, the top hill, which usually as a forest, conservation forest, is locked, yeah, the woods taken, ya, diambil kayunya, and then become a barren land. Nah, that's where the hazard will become, because the runoff will be bigger, the erosion will be bigger, and then potentially it will become flash flood or landslide. Seperti itu contohnya. Jadi seperti konversi penggunaan lahan. Nah, itu yang harus kita masukkan dalam tata ruang. Kalau memang sudah itu menjadi suatu lokasi yang digunakan untuk konservasi, ya itu digunakan untuk konservasi. Itulah gunanya tata ruang, untuk mengunci di mana yang paling tepat untuk sebagai kawasan konservasi, di mana yang boleh dibangun, di mana yang boleh berdaya gunakan. Nah, jadi itu yang harus kita perhatikan juga. I will give you some example of a good spatial planning and mitigation concept. This is a New York City, and I think this is a good concept. Yeah, you can learn from this location, because New York also has several disaster, multi-hazard, tsunamis, earthquake, winds, storm, the disaster from human-made. Wow, many disasters can occur in big city, like we have a Jakarta, we have Surabaya, Medan, and Makassar, and so on. So I think this is a good example. Let's see.
That was actually why Sandy was so bad, is because of the phase of the moon.
It's already a very large high tide, as well as the storm surge coming in with the wind and the tide lining up perfectly to give us 14-foot tides.
They talk about
The most
the
shocking part
probability
of
of
Hurricane Sandy
Hurricane
was the
Sandy.
fact
Yeah, hurricane.
that it exceeded
For example,
expectations.
Hurricane Sandy.
I
And
think the sheer magnitude of it caught a lot of people off guard.
When Hurricane Sandy came,
Hurricane
we were
Sandy,
not prepared at all.
they are not prepared.
Not even the slightest. Yeah, it was like an alien invasion of water. And not
The water
kind
will
of
go,
water. So, yeah,
has
I mean, it
been
came right in
go
front,
everywhere.
There was literally boats on 14th Street
Like
floating
this.
in front of our window. We had a sub-basement level office, a block from here, and it was totally covered in water for 2 days. So we lost everything. Everything.
We're really concerned about another storm and the flooding that's possible, and we think that the next time it's going to come even further inland.
I'd like to see some type of flood protection in this area. That's going to happen. More vulnerable, obviously, being this close to the water. Something that brings like more walks, different walks of life. Another escape from just the busyness and the hustle and bustle.
So yeah, you can see that we can plan something like this. Multi-purpose place, this space. Yeah.
There's this great space that could really become community space, cultural space,
Community space, cultural space, but also work as protection from hurricane.
Everyone enjoys space. And in New York and other congested cities, it's hard to come by.
Good views, good scenery, good places, but also safer.
Anything that makes the cities greener is just such a wonderful thing for
And also greener.
not only the environment, but the people that live in the city too, to be able to be around that space. The plans, the berming, the sense of how it can become into the natural landscape itself, how we want to program that is really the next challenge. We are the link, we're the tip in the sense of the big U. It's important that the entire waterfront.
Yes, you can see that every part of the city can be used as a mitigation effort.
Not only fortify this great city of New York, but be a model cities all over the world.
And can be a model to every city. Yeah, that's a good short video, yeah, short movie, yeah, and yeah, I hope we can learn something from that. For example, like in every city, we have to make sure every space is as safe as possible and have multiple purposes. In the normal condition, it can be used as public space or a park or something, and in the disaster event, it can be used as the protection. Yeah, that's in the New York. Yeah, same with the New Jersey. I gather some picture. It's also good. Yeah, landscape to, and I think it's a good natural drainage. Yeah, you can see the greeneries in here, canal. Yeah, building as well. This building also as a protection. Park as well. Also, yeah, hardened historic building also as a wall to prevent the what you call it, the wave. Yeah, landscape as also as wall. So you can see that this part of city will safer because of good protection in this. In Netherlands, they also has a problem with the seawater because the location their country is, one part of it is below water level, so they make floating houses. In Maldives, also in the slum area, and people start to make this community buildings using a floating mechanism in the slum area. Also in Semarang, Indonesia, our Ministry of Public Works also try to make floating public space, so that they can cater and so on. Because in the Semarang, we have a problem of rock flood, or the rising of sea water level. For example, like this, this is an example of mitigation because they can also survive the rising of water. For your info, this is built using floating concrete, beton ringan, so that it can float in the water. When the water level rise, it will also rise, and when it's down, also down. This is a pilot project to make the people there start to realize they have any option, because right now they have to build their houses large, taller and taller every year because of the rising of sea water level, and also the subsidence of soil, penurunan tanah dan penaikan tinggi muka air laut. So we have this technology, and we hope that in the future they can live free of flood using this technology. So that's all the materials for today, and I hope this will bring good understanding for you as the importance of spatial planning. We have to make sure that in the disaster event we come prepared, using the plan that we built before. So that's the conclusion of today, which conclude the important role of spatial planning and example of spatial planning in the disaster mitigation effort. So that's all for today, and later on we can continue in classroom with some assignment or discussion. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and we meet again in the next session. Thank you and stay healthy. Good afternoon. Goodbye.